Basically, when you fire up the controller, Google Maps essentially appears, and so you scroll in and you map out the boundary of the field.
Wow.
And then you tell the drone to fly it the most efficient way that it thinks it needs to fly, and it maps itself out, and then you do a few more parameters and you hit go, and
That's crazy.
off it takes off. So
Yeah.
it's essentially running all by itself almost the whole time. So
Right.
when it's
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's the Talk About It podcast. I'm Lauren Fulmer.
I'm Victor Dantas.
We have another fun episode today. We're going to talk about some drones with Josh Oakes. Josh, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you guys?
Doing good.
Good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah.
you for coming.
Yeah.
Ran into you at can't remember what event it was, a couple two ago, and I said, hey, let's have you on and talk about drones. I believe you got a business going as well, and combining that with agriculture, and I know he uses drones quite a bit in his field too. So
Yeah,
I know nothing about them. I do. I'll let me fly one.
Yeah. Well, if you're gonna fly a drone like what I got, you're gonna need your pilot's license. So I needed a full blown pilot's license in order to fly the Agra drone. It's a DJI Agra 40 T40, and it's a big drone. It's probably bigger than this table.
That's what I was going to ask. The size.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is this size of the table?
It's probably a little bit bigger than the table by the time you get the wings spread out.
What
So,
does the drone does? Carry a tractor in the air?
Not quite a tractor, but we're using it to spray primarily fungicide with it. So on the corn crop and soybean crop also. So that's what I'm doing with it. So
Is that becoming common? Like farmers using that a lot?
it's becoming more and more common for sure. Yeah.
What is? I'm assuming some efficiency, not only on fuel and different things, but also application, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So in that particular application, you're looking at anywhere between 2 gallon to the acre and 3 gallon to the acre, and so that's the typical application for fungicide. And so that just depends on what the farmer's looking for. But yeah, on a 2 gallon application rate, so the tank holds about 10 gallons. So I can get about 5 acres, per fill back and forth. So I'm doing about 5 acres at a time.
What is the other option if they don't have the drone? How would they do it?
So the other option is going to be airplane or helicopter. And so
I've seen the helicopter thing. Those are pretty amazing too.
The helicopter does a really nice job on efficiency for sure. It's able to get into maybe a few more of those corners of the field and whatnot. And when I say this, I'm not knocking the airplane guys at all. I think that the airplane still has we still need the airplane, but there's some off target going on with an airplane. So that's why the drone and the helicopter are coming into play. So yeah, absolutely.
So what made you? What made you say, "Hey, I'm gonna get this drone the size of this table, and I'm gonna start doing this"?
Well, 2 years ago, we happened to be rained out in the fall. We were rained out picking corn, and I had Berkey's had contacted me. That's where I ended up purchasing the drone through. And so they contacted me. And they're like, "Hey, you need to come over and watch this demonstration." And I'm like, "Well, what am I going to do with a spray drone? Like I don't, our acres probably couldn't justify a spray drone, this, that, and the other." And they're like, "No, you're rained out. Just come over and take a look." So I went over and took a look and saw what it was capable of doing. And then the longer he gave the presentation and the more I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? I think not only would it work on our farm, but it would also work potentially on a commercial type business as far as spraying for other farmers as well. And so that's what kind of got the ball rolling. And then I continued to talk and figure some things out. And the more I looked into it, the more research I did, I think it made sense. So I jumped all in. So I had a partner come in, and he helped me a little bit on some financing, and so we put it together, and here we are. We got MAV1 LLC was created.
MAV1. That's I didn't know the name as well.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
MAV1. We kind of your crop's wingman is kind of the tagline, and then kind of took it off of course, the whole Top Gun thing, and then my son's name is Maverick, so it just kind of fit.
Okay.
So I just kind of a cool name. So yeah, so MAV1, your crop's wingman.
Go ahead, man. Sorry.
What is the cost comparison? Like
So like what you mean, like what I'm charging versus like what an
For a
airplane or a
helicopter,
helicopter? Yeah. So actually, we're all almost the same money. So helicopter, airplane is somewhere between that $14 and $18, and I'm basically at the same rate. So I'm $14 to $18 per acre, depending on what you're looking to spread on the field.
And I have this question, and like I said, this is 100%. We can just preface: we're not here to put down the helicopter, airplanes, and all that.
No, absolutely
but
not. No,
I do have to assume there's an accuracy on the application, being able to be closer to the product. You know, you see the airplanes, they have to do the divs. You know, they can't. A helicopter can stay relatively stable.
Yep.
But there's got to be a lot more control advantages, and then obviously it's dangerous in the airplane and the helicopter, even for the pilot himself.
That's exactly.
Those are real accidents that happen.
Totally. I mean, that safety is definitely a lot better, you know, because obviously you're not having anyone man the aircraft while it's in the air going over the corn crop, where, like you say, that airplane's having to dip down in and then coming back up and out. And then, so yeah, you are missing some of that crop that's not getting that full coverage. And then the story I tell is that one time I can remember in the summertime, I was on the 4-wheeler and there was an airplane that was putting fungicide on, or I'm assuming it was fungicide, probably a 3/4 of a mile away. And so I was on the 4-wheeler. I'm like, oh, I should be fine, because I saw him crop dusting. Well, it was misting. I was getting some mist 3/4 of a mile away. Now, the way I'm set up is that we got a 30-foot gooseneck trailer, and I built a deck that I can observe the drone from the whole entire time. And so I can see the drone from there, obviously. And so I've had that drone fly right by me, right by our rig, and I'm not getting sprayed on. So I got to think there's more efficiency there also, to make sure that product is getting applied to the crop.
Yeah, I got to back that up. I've been out golfing many times, and they're spraying, and you can smell or feel. Many times, and I've always sat there. I wonder. I go, how in the? I'm not trying to bring up that time either, but how in the world is this okay?
Right.
As we're sitting here golfing, and you can feel, the spray, or it's like this chemical, and then definitely I'm very sensitive to smell. I can literally smell the chemical or something.
Sure,
but I mean, I kept golfing.
Right.
No,
that didn't stop you, right?
No.
You still wanted to get that 18.
But I did. I've always thought about that. And then for you to share that's a very good point.
Yeah. Yep. So,
and do you see the difference in quality? How do you measure if that's being effective versus helicopters?
So there's been studies done out there from different seed corn companies that have basically, so they've done the three things. They've done the airplane, they've done the ground rig, and the ground rig is still something that we haven't mentioned, but the ground rig is still spraying fungicide as well. So they did the airplane, ground rig, and then a drone, and they are finding that the drone is getting a better coverage to the crop. So basically they said, and it was an independent study, so people that are watching or listening, they're more than welcome to look it up. But essentially it was drone number 1, ground rig number 2, airplane number 3. So
the ground rig is what drives like over it. And has these.
So basically it's just like the big sprayer you see when you're, before we go plant corn or whatever. Right. But they can basically, get higher than the corn and have the boom over the corn and still spray that.
That's those metal frames, long ones that have wheels that you can. Is that what you're talking about?
Yep, okay. That's what I'm talking about. Yep, a big sprayer like that. Yeah. Now with that, one thing that I do say is that I'm not, or at least I hope I'm not running over any crop, right?
I don't have to one way a little bit here and there. Not you.
Not me. The ground rig is definitely going to run over some crop on the ends.
You have to.
Yep, they're going to have to turn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not running over any crop, and even through the field, like there's fatigue and there's having to be able to drive straight, and you're just been doing it forever all day long, so every now and then you'll run over just the row, so you run over 10 feet of corn in the row, that's profit and loss. So the drone definitely has its benefits.
Okay.
Do you have, not even just necessarily you, I know other drones and maybe companies have a software where they can even, from above, they can see, hey, we have a problem area in the field here. Yep. You may not need to spray this whole area. Maybe you just need to spray you know, a little bit here and here based off of color indication, you know, where I've seen these from someone like where it's a green, a red, and yellow area.
Absolutely. So yeah, they're getting into some DVI stuff where you can like basically send the drone out and you can have it fly the field, and then like if you see a red area, well, you know that there's something going on there. Like if it's not quite as green and plush as the rest of the field, so you could potentially spot spray that particular part of the field to try to make that green again and figure out, you know, kind of what's going on and make sure you're going to have a crop in that particular area.
Yeah.
Would it make sense for someone to sell their helicopter and buy a drone and start doing what you're doing?
There's the downfall. If there's a downfall of the drone, that's probably what it is, and it's probably that efficiency, right? So the helicopter is going to easily get done probably somewhere between, he could, depending on where he's at, probably 3,000 to 3,000 acres a day ish, somewhere in there. I'm only getting 300 a day done.
Oh, okay.
So that's where so it's going to be more on the efficiency end of it.
For sure.
I can get, so the drone company is basically saying that you can get 40 acres an hour for the maximum. So, and I've been able to do that, but on those days you got to make sure that like you've got a nice square 40 acres, or there's some things that need to happen in order for you to actually achieve the 40 acres per hour, but it can be done, and I've done it, other drone operators have done it, we've talked, and it can definitely be done. But on a typical day, one drone, you're probably more realistically at that 31 to 32 an hour, depending on where you're at.
Is there a next size?
So they've just, again, I was running the T40. They've just come out with a T50.
Okay.
They've improved software, and they've improved terrain compensation, and they've, obviously just like everything else. So it's bigger and better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think as technology continues to grow, it's just going to continue to get bigger and bigger. I've also seen, so it's not approved quite yet in the U.S., but in other countries they're allowing like drones. They call it swarming. So they're going to allow you to swarm. So I think as things progress and things continue to grow, I think you'll be going down the highway and you're going to see 10 to 12 drones out in one field, spraying that field. So, and at that point in time, you're going to be able to knock out quite a few acres in no time.
So you think that's the future?
I think that is probably where it's going to go. Yes, I really do.
So you would plan on getting more drones to be able to do more effectively?
Yeah, I mean, I'm currently looking into adding a drone right now, so to run too.
Sure.
So, but with another drone, you need to have, again, you need to have your, they call it the 107 pilot's license.
Yeah.
And then you have a 137 exemption also that you have to have for agricultural. And then anything that weighs over 55 pounds, the FAA also would like to see you get there's I think it's A8047 55-pound exemption. So you just can't walk into an agriculture store and be like, hey, I'm going to start spraying today, and so there's things that you need to go through the FFA and get all that knocked out for sure.
Okay.
So I took a 6-week online class to get my 107 pilot's license, and within that 107, I was essentially learning the same thing that a pilot that's going to fly a Piper would have to learn. So, so it opened my eyes for sure. I mean, I had to figure out how they do weather and like runway markings, and so it was a full blown pilot's exam, if you will, but it is for a UAV aircraft.
Okay.
So you mentioned the drone is 55 pounds.
The drone weighs 55 pounds.
What is the max weight it can lift up?
Yep. So so it's got a 10-gallon tank, as I mentioned before. So most liquids are somewhere between 8 and 12 gallon, or excuse me, 8 pounds. So per gallon, right? So 8 to 12 per gallon. So somewhere between 80 and 120 pounds. And it also has a dry spreader as well. So you can put like cover crops in there or a dry fertilizer. And they're saying right around that 110 to 120 pounds as well on that. So
you could strap a kid up to that thing and fly him around.
I have not done it. I'm not going to do it, but I have definitely seen.
That's why I can't have one.
This is why you can't have one. But
Come here.
But if you did have one, I could see you doing the YouTube video that I've seen. There's buddies that have grabbed onto it, flown him up and over, and I'll guarantee you the guy weighed more than 120 pounds.
Right.
Flew him over the pond, and he just lets go.
See?
So just guys having guy fun, you know. But
That's why women live longer.
that's right. That's right.
One thing I was also wondering is, a lot of the combines, tractors, they can maneuver through the field on their own.
Yep.
Are we there with the drone software yet, where it sits there and it can go through the field? You're
Like to
not
set
having
up the
you
map
don't.
for him to go.
Yeah.
Yep. That's exactly what it's doing. I mean,
So you don't have to
you
sit
can-
and make each turn.
Nope.
Wow.
So basically, when you fire up the controller, Google Maps essentially appears, and so you scroll in and you map out the boundary of the field.
Wow.
And then you tell the drone to fly it the most efficient way that it thinks it needs to fly, and it maps itself out, and then you do a few more parameters and you hit go, and
That's crazy.
off it takes off. So
Yeah.
it's essentially running all by itself almost the whole time. So
Right.
when it's coming back to the trailer and going out to the field, if I'm a little bit a ways away, as I've got more used to it and how it all ran, I started flying it myself to speed some things up, because there's a return to home feature, I guess, and it'll automatically return to home every time if you hit that button, but it limits on how fast it can return and go back to the field. So
Sure.
as things progressed, I'm like, all right, we need to get going, boys.
Yeah.
Dark's coming. So
Sure.
Have you had an accident?
No, I have not had one.
No.
Knock
Yeah,
on wood.
knock on
So,
Okay, but you have insurance. on the
but
drone.
I have insurance. Yep. Insurance for not only the drone but for the business as well. You know, with
Liability
and
yeah.
just like anything else.
Yeah.
What is
absolutely.
something major that could happen? Like what type of accident? Can you drop the whole?
Yeah. So the drone could essentially lose signal,
Okay.
and then 95% of the time it's over a cornfield or soybean field. So it's safe out there except for the drone itself. But I mean, there were some scenarios where, because of power lines, I'm always looking out for power lines
Yeah.
and tree lines. So when I get to a field, I got my head on a swivel trying to figure out what obstacles I may or may not have. But back to your question, basically you're looking at, so there's been some instances where if I'd had to park on the shoulder of the road, and then I tell it to do its thing. Well, if that drone were to take off and then for whatever reason get a mind of its own and just fly into a car, that would be really bad, obviously.
Yeah.
So that would be probably worst case scenario. But other than that, the drone acted and did everything that I asked it to do. I mean, I follow there's a Facebook page for DJI drones that I've been following, and there's some guys that have, not to that severity of crashing into a car, but they've had the drone kind of take off and do its own thing, and but no, nothing bad.
You know what I think you should do?
What's that?
What's that?
This will be bad.
No, I think it would be great to have a drone filming your drone doing
Yep.
stuff. We do have a DJI drone as well, a FPV
Okay.
drone.
Yeah,
That you put the goggles and you can go under, above, close.
that would be a really cool video, actually.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
He says, "You know what you should do."
I know. Yeah.
That's funny.
I think
Soft
I know where
sale.
he's going with that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
make him imagine the video. It would be a great
No,
video.
Yeah, I was thinking that already.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking another thing you do, because you already have the skill set of being able to maneuver the drones.
Yeah.
One thing where my good chunk of my family are farmers. What does every farmer have a picture of?
Their farm.
Their
site.
farm. I mean, every stinking one of them.
Yep, absolutely.
So, that's something I assume is still a thing.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
the wide variety of photos you could offer with the drone on somebody's whole operation,
Yep.
and they'd have a whole wall of their photos. I mean, I'm sure you'd sell those things like hotcakes.
Yeah, the big spray drone actually does not technically have a camera, so that would take like a smaller.
But yeah,
Drone.
you downgrade. You
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to
yeah.
take the big drone out for
But
every.
you can outsource it to us.
No, okay.
The photos and videos, yeah.
Well, there
Okay.
you
You
go.
upsell them and you have your margin. And yeah.
All right, we can do that.
This just turned into a Josh and Victor business meeting.
We can talk about that. We can talk
yeah,
about that.
but no, that's all good. You know that so many options with these drones. I've seen
Yeah.
in real estate. You know, people are using drones to show houses.
Yeah, the cops are using Galesburg.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I noticed because a couple of days ago that something happened on my street, and then 15 minutes later, I heard the drone over my house.
Yeah, how did you know it was a military or a police drone?
Because there was 12 cops in front of my house.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but
They were looking around, and then a drone came. I know it's their
But I
drone.
just want, yeah, because you never know who that's flying a drone around.
Yeah.
You know, I see there's someone in my neighborhood that's always whipping one.
Oh,
Around.
really?
Yeah, a small one. This one's fast, like more
Yeah.
racing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
The FAA is getting tighter and tighter on those restrictions. So, like my big drone, it's got its own tail number, just like a airplane.
Right.
And now they're actually looking for tail numbers on smaller drones like that. Like not necessarily, I'm sure the police drone, you know, but yeah, they're looking for tail numbers now because it's getting more and more.
Well, it's
Yeah, you
serious,
can't
if you
fly
will.
over people's house.
No,
No.
and you
Yeah, you
shouldn't.
can't,
You
no.
should have to have it registered
Yes.
in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
if
you-
you start doing who knows what with these things, if they were to somehow get it out of the air, shoot it, whatever, they should be able to. Then okay, who is this registered with? Just like anything else.
Yep. And they go through all that in the 107 class, and so yeah, it's restricted for sure. I mean, you just don't want to be flying over the neighborhood or
right.
or people whatsoever.
Well, I was
So-
telling him while you were setting up, I saw a video where a drone was being used with literally had a firearm attached to it. So you could just fly a drone in, drop it in,
Yeah.
fire the.
Yeah, that's
I mean, the army already used it. I was-
Absolutely.
yeah, the army's
Yeah.
for
To
sure
drop
doing
That's
that.
bombs
probably
and
what it
stuff,
was, like
yeah.
a military type or police. But the fact that those, you know, yeah, you could use a drone for just
drop
about
a
anything.
bomb.
Yeah,
People are together, some just
Yeah.
drop one.
it's nuts.
Yeah, there's a friend of mine that works for the normal police force, and they've tasked him with he's the drone guy now. So he's been calling me asking questions because you know they had him go through the 107 test and all the other things. So we've kind of been hitting back and forth trying to figure out what's going on. So
I think it's great how it's developing. Like Domino's, I think in California already delivers with drones. Amazon is doing that as well.
I
It's
heard of
testing,
that.
yeah.
I heard of the Amazon thing
Yeah.
being on, and you.
So
I
it's
just picture
basically-
that like the Jetsons, you know.
right.
It
At
doesn't
some
fly
point.
from the ground.
Yep.
It's like a building high up. It's basically their distribution center there, and has a bunch of little squares on the ground where the drones comes. You know, you program the back to home with the
Yep.
drone, and then the drone knows exactly where to come back, and then they put a box there. It goes to the next address.
I just feel like that's all fun and games until it starts
Yes.
to be too much.
Until you see a drone
It takes
bigger
over.
than this table.
Yeah. Or some people but come and just grab the thing or hit it or destroy it or I mean there's so many. It's like
Yeah.
they'll evolve, they'll figure it out and
Right.
it'll be just fine.
Yeah.
But like
Yep.
as we sit here, it's like it's sometimes crazy to think even to go spray an entire field, not even being controlled, but it's here.
Yeah,
And
it's here.
It's able.
Yeah.
It's definitely here, and it does a nice job. It does a great job, and I've had customer base has been real happy with the results this fall, and it's worked out really well. So I've
Yeah.
also seen so we're just talking about it the North Carolina the hurricane. So they've been using that same particular drone to carry packages into guys that they can't get to. So there was an ag team that they got together and they're like, hey, we got to figure out, we need to get these guys some water or some supplies, and they've been working together with those guys and getting supplies to them. That was really cool to watch.
Yeah. Where I thought you were going with that was a way to look for bodies
People
or
too, yeah.
people. Or,
I think they're doing that too.
I'm
as
sure they
well.
do
Yeah.
that,
Yeah,
Yeah,
you could just use those and fly around, cover a good amount of area pretty quick.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do think it's gonna help us
Yeah.
at some point.
And even
yeah.
as that software to be able to infrared to see, you know, if we're locate a body. Or,
Yep.
Like
and that's
AI
already-
and drone will do well together, I think, like for security purposes.
Yeah.
I'm saying that because there's a guy running for mayor, that he was running for mayor in São Paulo, Brazil. And he said he was copying a city from China that's using drones for security purposes.
Okay.
So downtown, there's different bases, security drones set up.
Yep.
And then the cameras downtown, they detect people that are having weird behaviors. Either a guy on a motorcycle that keeps going to the same place, and then the drone detects that, the AI detects that, and the drone goes and just start watching the guy there.
Right.
You know.
To see, hey,
So
what's
there's different things, like security could be a thing that
Right.
they
Yeah.
use drone a lot.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so many things.
Yeah.
I think we're just scratching the surface on it.
Yeah.
I
Imagine.
I think so. I think the ag market is certainly grabbed onto it, and I think
Yeah.
going forward, it's probably going to be here to stay. I really do.
I think the ag industry it was what I feel is going to be very tough to get the old traditional farmers. What we've done, it's working just fine.
Yep.
You know, slow down, kid.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I do feel though the transition over the last probably 10 years for sure. They've been way more receptive to technology as they're
Absolutely.
getting. They're seeing some of these new combines even 5-10 years ago. What they're doing, I feel like they're taking that turn.
Yeah, that turn's definitely coming. I mean, it's I did a job for a guy who's closer to my age, and his dad came by, and he's like, "You boys and your toys," right? And I'm like, "Well, I guess it is a toy. You can call it a toy, but I said right now, I said it's been a moneymaker for me, and it's done well, and it does a really good job out in the field." And he watched it and just shook his head, and so there is some of that still, like,
Yeah, for
you guys are crazy. I'm not gonna have a drone spray my field, but there's other guys that are like, I didn't do a ton of advertising, just kind of word of mouth, and it just continued to kind of blow up, and I would get this amount of acres done, the phone would ring. I get this amount of acres done, the phone would ring, and that was really nice to have, and so it worked out nice.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming in, Josh.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. I really, I've been having fun doing it, and I'm learning a lot, and hopefully we'll continue to do the business. And I appreciate you having me over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for coming, man.
Keep it
Yeah.
going.
Interesting conversation.
Yeah. So Josh Oakes with Mav1, right?
Yeah, Mav One. Yep.
Mav1, the name of
Yep.
his business, but also an overall interesting dude. I've appreciated you. You speak Berkey's earlier. That's where I met you.
Yep.
You remember?
Yep,
Probably
that's where-
10 years ago.
Yeah, 10, 12 years ago,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's cool. But I appreciate you coming and sitting down and sharing this. And good luck with everything going forward.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right.
Thank you, man.
Thanks, Victor.
This is Victor Dantas. I'm Lauren Fulmer. Talk About It podcast. We'll see you later.
See you guys.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Talk About It podcast.
I'm Victor Dantas,
I'm Lauren Fulmer.
and we would encourage you guys to subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the bell. It's gonna be right below the video, so you
Hit
guys,
the bell.
so you know when the next episode is up. All
We
right.
appreciate all the support.
Thank you.